I remember a particular guy that was coming down here for electrical engineering course, and the visa officer was like, "Hey, what are you gonna do after your studies?" And this guy said, "Well, as you can tell, we have a problem with electricity supply in Nigeria. We have epileptic power supply in Nigeria. So one of my goals is to take the knowledge that I acquire in the United States, come back here, to come back to Nigeria, and try and implement this thing and this thing and this thing." And the visa officer was like, "Yeah, that's true. The power solves." Hi guys, and welcome to another episode of my channel. In today's episode, I'll be talking about 5 common F1 visa interview questions and how to properly answer them in order to increase your chances of getting approved for US F1 visa. The problem with applying for US F1 visa is that, especially in Nigeria, is that most people are trying their chances at the embassy. And there's a massive difference between trying your chance and appearing fully prepared. But hopefully by the end of this video, some of the answers and insights that I will provide to these questions would help you to feel adequately prepared in order to answer some of these questions that you might be asked during your F1 visa interview. If you haven't subscribed to the channel, please do so. Do not forget to give the video a thumbs up. Do not forget to share the video. I make videos about my experience as an international student in the United States, and I'm sure if you're watching this video, you'll probably find my previous and my future content very helpful. So do subscribe to the channel. The first question that people baffle with when it comes to appearing for US F1 visa interview is, why are you going to the US? Now, that's a very interesting question because obviously you're appearing for F1 visa interview, which means you're a student, you're applying to go to the United States to study. So it's sort of like a redundant question. But the purpose of this question is very simple. The visa officer, most of the time, they're trying to see, to judge your intention, right? Why are you going? Why are you going to the US for school? Why this particular school? Why are you spending thousands and thousands of dollars to get a degree in a country that is thousands of miles away from home? So that's the intent behind that question. Why are you going to the US? And this is your opportunity to show that you know what you're going there to do. And this is when you talk about um, I'm going to the United States. Specifically, I'm going to this XYZ university to get my degree in XYZ because I'm interested in XYZ. That's like a very simple template. Of course, you can always elaborate and explain more, but those are the main things that you want to touch on. I'm going to XYZ university to get a degree in XYZ because I'm interested in XYZ. Right. So that's like a very nice template to answer those questions. If you can touch on those 3 things, I'm going to this school to get a degree in this subject because I'm interested in this subject. That's it. And more often than not, you get a follow-up question after that. And then the follow-up question that you get, which is the second question that I'm trying to touch on in this video, is why this particular school? Because you've laid the path for that question, right? You started your conversation by saying, I'm going to this school to get it, I'm going to the United States to get a degree in this part, to get a degree in this particular subject. And then the next question is going to be, why are you going to these schools? Obviously, there are thousands or hundreds of schools across the globe that probably offer the same course, right? There are schools even in Nigeria that offers the same course. You can't say, oh, because United States is the only place that offers civil engineering, or United States is the only this school is the only school in the world that offers petrochemical engineering courses. That's not true. Most of the time, a very good response, especially if you're in the STEM field, there are high chances that there's a particular research going on in that school that interests you. There are high chances that they have a very robust body of alumni body that are very like known in that particular field. There are high chances that that particular program is the best in the world. There are high chances that there's a plethora of opportunity for you to explore different research areas, for you to meet with experts in the field. There are high chances that United States is arguably the best place to study that particular course. So this is where you really want to invest time and research. Why am I going to this particular school? It's a question that you have to be able to answer yourself, convince yourself of the reason why you're not going to Germany, why you're not going to Canada, why you're not going to the UK. So ask yourself that question: why am I going to this school? What exactly is it that interests me in this school? Is it because I got funded? That's a very legitimate reason. Oh, you're interested, I'm interested in the particular research that Dr. XYZ is doing, and coupled with the fact that I got full funding for my program. It's one of the 5 schools that I applied to, and I got full funding for my program. The third question that usually comes as a follow-up, because the time for this interview is always very short, right? The third question that usually comes as a follow-up is, why this particular program. And this is where you can take the opportunity to shine, because um, you could have as well gone ahead and studied a different course, right? Number one, you want to show that there is a prospect for this particular course that you're doing. You don't want to say, oh, I'm going to the United States to study agriculture in New York. That sounds not very interesting, right? But you can say, think about it this way. I'm going to the United States to study agriculture in, say, Minneapolis or Fargo, like that part of the country. They are known for vast agricultural things and stuff like that. And your plug can be, well, one of the problems that we have in this country is farm mechanization. There's that word, I can't remember. Basically, the idea of using machineries at a large scale for cultivating your farm, right? Africa or Nigeria in particular, we don't do well when it comes to that. If you appear in front of a visa officer and tell a visa officer that I'm interested in how we can engage these machineries to improve our farm productivity in Nigeria, and that's why I'm going to the United States to study agriculture at this particular university, that's a legitimate reason. You know what I'm saying? That's like very, it shows that you have an intent. It shows that you know what you're going there for, right? So why this particular program? How would this, essentially what they're asking you that question is, how would this particular program help you when you're done with your degree? How do you think you can contribute to either the United States or Nigeria or your own country with this particular program when you're done? And this is when you highlight the benefit of studying the program, the loophole that you've noticed in the society or in your country that you think you being an expert in that particular field can help solve that problem. Another follow-up question that comes shortly after that is, who is sponsoring this program, right? Who is paying for it? Because let's face it, education in the United States is expensive. Even if you get graduate assistantship program or things like that, if you get partial tuition, all of that, it's still very much expensive. It's not cheap, right? So this is where you show that, number one, it's either the school really wants you by providing significant amount of funding. That is not unheard of, right? People get full funding, full ride, full tuition, everything paid for, stipend, etc. It's either you're able to tell them, oh, well, the school actually covered all my tuition, I also get a stipend, or you have a very deep pocket, or your parents, or your uncle, or your cousin. That's your own explanation. I'm not going to go into the details of how to show proof of fund, but you want to establish the fact that you're not going to be a burden to the country of your host, like your host country. You're not going to be a burden to the United States. You're not going to get here and be stranded. You're not going to get here and start working when you're not authorized to work. So that boils down to you establishing the fact that you can afford to pay for these things. Number one, I think from my personal perspective, I think it's okay. Like, it's really good if you have some sort of funding. Usually this question does not come up if you have significant amount of funding from the school, especially if you're going for a PhD program or if you're going for a master's degree program. This question rarely come up, right? So think about all of these things when you're applying, when you're selecting your program. How do you intend to fund it, right? Obviously, 2 years, 5 years is a long time, right? It's difficult to plan financially for all of that. But you should have some system in place that would ensure that you don't suffer when you get to the United States. And you should do your best to explain this system to the visa officer when you're asked this particular question. And I want to make a side note about the funding situation. Get funding when you can, especially if you're coming here for master's degree. Get funding. If you're coming here for PhD, get funding. It's gonna make your life easy, because living expenses by itself is expensive. Like, it is expensive. This is America. Dollar is expensive everywhere. So make sure that you ease that burden by at least getting some sort of financial commitment from your school. Because people think it's easy to come down here like, oh, I'm gonna hustle and make it work. Good luck with that. This is the last question. This is the last question that I want to touch on the common F1 visa interview question. And the question is, what would you do after your studies? The purpose of this question is very simple. They're trying to see, do you intend to come home? Are you trying to jackpot or something? That's the idea. But it's on you to show that there's actually a need for you back home. And there are so many ways to show this. It's either by showing the prospect of employment in Nigeria when you get back, or by proving that you have some ties back home. Maybe you're currently working for a company and they're sponsoring part of your education, and you're expected to come back after your program to contribute to the company or to take up management position. Or your father runs a company and you will be the CEO one day. Or there are so many loopholes in Nigeria, there are so many opportunities for that particular field in Nigeria. Say you study petrochemical engineering course or something, and you're coming here for your master's degree, you can highlight some problems that we have. I remember a particular guy that was coming down here for electrical engineering course, and the visa officer was like, "Hey, what are you gonna do after your studies?" And this guy said, "Well, as you can tell, we have a problem with electricity supply in Nigeria. We have epileptic power supply in Nigeria. So one of my goals is to take the knowledge that I acquired in the United States, come back here, to come back to Nigeria and try and implement this thing and this thing and this thing." And the visa officer was like, "Yeah, that's true. The power solves." So point of all of that is that you have to convince the visa officer that there is actually a reason, there's a need for your course of study back home. There is something that would bring you back. And that's sort of like the main gist of this video, really. And I have one last question, sort of like a bonus. But before I share that bonus, if you've not subscribed to the channel, do not forget to click on the subscribe button. Do not forget to give the video a thumbs up. Do not forget to share. Or if you have something that you really want me to talk about, do not forget to use the comments box. Just introduce yourself in the comment section. It gives me joy to read your comments. Now, the bonus part of the video is this. Sometimes they ask you, if you've never traveled before, they ask you, have you been to any country? Usually this is just like a by question. It really doesn't impact the outcome of the visa interview. In my experience, the visa officer does not really care, because most people that would appear for US F1 visa, they've not been outside of the country before. They don't have like decent travel history. I know some people advise that, hey, try and travel somewhere. It doesn't matter. Like most people, almost all of my friends that got their F1 visa, they've never visited any country. I visited some other country before coming to the United States, but it's the African countries. It doesn't really matter, right? So the visa officer might ask you, have you been to any other country before? Do not be scared of answering confidently like you've never had any reason to visit any other country. So this is going to be my first time outside of the country. I've never had any reason to visit a different country. And that's all I have for you in this video. I hope you get something. I hope this helps you navigate some of the common questions that you might be asked during your F1 visa interview. And again, do not forget to subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video. Peace out.